Hi, welcome to another episode of the Total Clarity Podcast. I'm Jessie Hyatt.
And I'm Mike Varley. And this week we have a couple of new things, a new wrinkle or two in the folds here, as we always try and iterate and experiment with what we're doing on the podcast. The first thing might be obvious to those that are watching on YouTube, and that's that you're not seeing our faces.
Nope, we're not there.
Nope, we're not there. Instead, what you're seeing is some footage that I took earlier this week, so that perhaps for some of the things that we talk about, we will have actual visuals to go along with what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's the hope. Anything that you see is from the route this week, so it at least links up in that way.
Yes.
And if it makes sense with the editing, which Mike does, if it makes sense to him, to link things up even more, then they will. And if not, then it'll just link up in that basic way.
Yeah. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that this is the first time we are recording a podcast directly after a walk. So
that's true.
This is the fifth day of our week walking around the north of Queens, and we are going to leave after this, or tomorrow, to celebrate Jessie's birthday.
Yeah.
So we don't have a lot of time to do the podcast recording over the next couple of days. So we're getting it done now, but Jessie can definitely speak for herself on this one. This might be the first time I feel equipped to even do something like this after the walk.
Yeah, I don't even know if I feel equipped to do this.
That's why I said you can speak for yourself.
We're doing it, so like I better. But I have some coffee, I drank some water, and we'll see where this goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, I feel like it's the first time that I've had the physical, I haven't been as physically exhausted. So.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. We actually also tried to do a version of this while we were walking.
We tried. It was so loud.
Well, we don't know for certain if it was loud, but it definitely got in our heads that it was quite loud.
Yeah.
So we've been doing our use of force recordings, which some of you may have heard. It's exclusively on the audio platforms at this point. We've been doing them while we're walking, but because they're much shorter, it doesn't really seem as much of a burden. We try and find areas that are already quiet, streets that are off to the side or parks, and we do the bulk of the recording there. And I like that the ambience of just the walking around.
Yeah.
But it gets to a certain point where there's just a lot of trucks going by, and sometimes there's jackhammers, and it really interrupts the flow. So I don't know if we're ever going to be able to do a full episode that way. I hope so, but
I think we will. It'll just require kind of getting used to what noises actually interfere, which noises don't, and then also just kind of working through it.
Yeah. So we ended up doing like a 45-minute or an hour recording this morning, but it just got to the point where the flow was being interrupted too many times. So we said, all right, we'll just do it tonight.
Yeah, so here we go.
Yeah. So, let's begin. We're walking through North Queens this week. Last week we were in Northwest Queens. This week we're in North Queens. So, the exit out of our neighborhood is actually quite similar to the one that we took last week.
That's right.
Yeah. So, we start by going to Cooper Avenue, up the street past a bar called Nowadays that we like quite a bit. This is an outdoor venue. Some of you may have been there. Some of you may have only heard of it and not been there. I would say go there whenever we can.
Yeah, it's actually, they just opened back up. I got an email just the other morning. I saw that they were opening back up. They were opening their backyard and testing that out, and apparently it was going well. So
yeah,
I guess that's an option now.
Yeah, I hope so. We should go back too.
At some point we'll check it out. We'll see how it feels.
Yeah, they've been doing a pretty robust online program from what I can see. So
Yeah.
they've definitely super engaged with the community and trying to make this work during a difficult time. So they are worth supporting. And yeah, so that's the route that we take to get out of our neighborhood. And we go through Glendale along Cooper Avenue, and then it turns into Myrtle Avenue. And that area is similar to what ours looks like. Residential, not really a lot of stores. There'll occasionally be like a strip, but I wouldn't really call anything like a shopping center.
Yeah, it's a little more Main Streety, though, I think, than our neighborhood. Our neighborhood feels like the stores don't sort of like align with each other necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of delis and then like a bar, restaurant here and there, pharmacy, etc. But the Ridgewood into Maspeth part of the walk feels like, when there is a strip of stores, it feels like they all feel kind of similar in a way.
Yeah. I would consider, I mean, when I'm thinking about it, because both ends of the walk, for this walk, much like last week's walk, it's a very narrow funnel. We're only several streets apart. So the area that you're describing, I would agree, is much more Main Streety and neighborhoody.
Yeah. Oh, but I guess, yeah, I hear what you're saying. The walk that we actually did today, there's less of those.
Yeah. When leaving that area, we go by a cemetery, and there's stores kind of on the other side of the cemetery, and it's not like a walk around and shop place.
Right. No, not at all. No.
When it's a little bit more on the other side like that.
Yeah.
But, we're going through there at 7:30 in the morning anyway, so
right.
there's not a lot.
Not a lot of people walking around to shop at 7:30 in the morning.
There's kind of like people walking their dogs. We passed a few days this week these Italian guys that are just sitting outside a store across from the cemetery, just kind of bullshitting. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a sleepy part of the area, which is why I thought we would be able to do the podcast over there. And it was pretty good the previous day, but not this day. This week we happen to be doing a Sunday through Thursday week, again in order to accommodate Jessie's birthday, to give us some extra off time to give a true celebration. So our first day on Sunday is one of these days that we did a Sunday for our very first walk day, and it's nice to be able to get out on a weekend to be able to see some of the differences. And among some of the differences there's a lot of people going to church.
Although, like, our church is open, I guess. Maybe they are. We've seen people in their church clothes, which I like. I always like the church clothes that people wear. But I'm just not sure if they're actually going to church or how that's working right now. Maybe there's some sort of outdoor church that's happening.
Yeah.
Makes sense, though, too, if you've been going to church every Sunday and getting dressed up in your church clothes, that you would continue to maybe wear them and go for a walk even if you're not going to church.
Maybe, yeah. Well, we have a story about a church that I'll save until a little bit later in the route. But we did see at least one service that was going on.
That's true, yeah.
So that's a difference. I think a bigger difference between the weekdays and the weekends, of course, is that shops are closed, or some businesses are closed on the weekends.
Yeah.
And we were able to take advantage of that as far as documenting differences when we were going through some of the industrial areas.
Right.
A lot of different vehicle repair shops and things like that are shuttered, and the parking lots are emptied, and it's some really interesting storefronts, which I was able to take some photos of.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did, because the rest of the week they are bustling and really just not available for the same type of documentation.
Right. It's really wild, those industrial areas, too, how like you said, on a Sunday, it's completely empty.
Yeah.
The street's completely empty. The sidewalk's completely empty. It's quiet. It's really, like, peaceful in a way, even though it's kind of dirty. But then during the week, the there's lots of cars, there's lots of noise, there's lots of metal on metal sort of noise and vibes and sparks and stuff. And then there's also a lot of activity on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Whether it's like packing stuff or unloading pallets or all sorts of, it's always interesting to me how the industrial areas of New York, I always think, you know, like you rent space or buy space and it includes what's inside, but then it always kind of like overflows onto the sidewalk, which is funny.
Yeah, that is funny. A third thing that we've noticed is that the parks are considerably more crowded.
Yeah.
We went
on Sundays.
Yeah, we went through Flushing Meadows Park on Sunday, and it was absolutely slammed with people.
Yeah, I was very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We kind of like ran through the park.
Well, it was a little uncomfortable because there weren't a lot of people wearing masks, which is something that Jessie and I have talked about a little bit to speculate why that is. Because in general, people are wearing masks when we're walking around. The ratio I put it at, and somebody suggested we should do a clicker, like one of us click for masks and one of us, don't. I think that was Brian that suggested that. But I put the ratio at like 80-20.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Which 80% of people are wearing masks, 20% aren't. And then of that 20%, there is probably half of that are people that are in the immediate vicinity of their homes, and they're just doing little errands that I think gives them a feeling of immunity, where it's like, okay, I'm just going to be out for a second. I just need to put the garbage out, or I just need to run to the car and get something.
Right, or they're just like in their yard gardening or doing something, or like sitting on their porch or something like that where,
And whether or not that's the right move or not, I understand the rationale that they have.
Sure.
It's like your house feels like an extension of you, and it's
like we just talked about the industry people. The sidewalk is like an extension of your space
right.
in a way.
Right. Yeah. So it seems like traveling from place to place, people have been pretty respectful about the masks. But I think there's something about arriving at a leisure place that makes it feel as though it's okay to not have a mask on.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were just discussing this in relation to your birthday. Like we invited people up with the understanding that people may or may not feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And we're super casual about what the planning would be. And it turned out that a lot of people want to come up, which isn't surprising because Jessie's a lovely person and they want to celebrate her. But, we're discussing what it is that it would look like to hang out with everybody, and should we be wearing masks or whatnot? And,
keeping distance is a pretty obvious one. If we're outside wearing masks, interacting with people, there's questions, and to some degree it's comfort level of everyone involved. To another degree, it's trying to find out what the latest information from the scientists is and what the most respectful way to go about it is. And I do understand, when we're walking through Flushing Meadows, we are traveling through also. Yeah. So we have the mask on and we're walking through the park and seeing groups of people all around. And it's not that they're all far away from us, but sort of like seeing it. I know at the beginning of all of this time of COVID, or I guess not the beginning, but sort of when people were leaving their houses, the weather was getting nicer. There were all those photos that were taken in a way that made it look like everyone was on top of each other without a mask on. And it kind of, like, even just in the park looking, it's overwhelming because you see a lot of people. And, like, we haven't been around people at all. Yeah. So it's overwhelming to see a lot of people and then to notice that a lot of people have their masks off. But maybe, like if I went and measured the distance between everyone, I'm sure everybody's trying to do their best right now. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't...
Nothing against the park.
Yeah.
It was an anxiety-inducing experience for me, but it also, we just motored through and went on our way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm not interested in feeling judgment because it'd just be overwhelming. We see so many people. I mean, I wouldn't want to feel judgment anyway, but it's just not, it doesn't hold much point. Just wear the masks if it makes sense to wear the masks. And, I was thinking about, there are all these like posts on the internet about like, I do this. If I can wear a mask, so can you,
Yeah.
Where it's like, I work 12 hours a day, and it's,
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, in some ways, what we're doing is like a thing like that, but I wouldn't want to do that, where it's like, we're walking a marathon 5 days a week and we're wearing masks. If we're doing that, so can you. But it's like,
it's so obnoxious.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it's all of, honestly, just the entire thing is obnoxious, because the people that are fighting against wearing masks are also super obnoxious. Like, just shut up. Like, if you don't want to wear a mask, shut up and hide and like go, just go away. But like, and if you do want to wear, and you can wear a mask and you do want to wear the mask, good, great. That's like what we're supposed to be doing. I think we can all agree that's what we're supposed to be doing. But like the fighting back and forth and and the fact, it's just hard. It's hard. None of us are scientists. None of us are doctors. The way that this works is that there's experiments and things get figured out and then things get proved and then they get disproved and they get built upon, and we're like all backseat drivers to the scientists that are trying to figure this out, and there's no real leadership, and I don't think I'm going to say anything new right now about this.
Right. Well, some of the funny things that I've seen in lieu of masks are like, clearly that we pass by people sometimes and they're clearly aware they should have a mask on, or they feel some emotion seeing us in masks. And some people use their T-shirts.
Yeah. Sometimes people just put their hand in front of their mouth.
Yeah, I saw a little girl the other day who was playing with her neighbor, passed by me, and she just put her hand over her mouth and ran into her house.
Oh.
So there are definitely, there's an awareness that like this is a thing that should be happening.
Yeah.
And then one final thing I'd say about weekend versus weekday, and I'll have to see if this is the case, like truly the case or not as we continue. But I think there's less exercising in parks.
On weekends?
On weekends. I think there's something about exercise routine that lends itself to weekdays more than weekends.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've noticed one way or the other.
Yeah. But we saw...
I mean, we definitely saw exercises in playgrounds. We were noticing that especially today.
Oh, boy, yeah. So today, we noticed two separate guys exercising, like using the bars of, jungle gyms in order to like do their pull-ups.
Push-ups
or
and
their
pull-ups
and we saw, so somebody will have to tell us which one they think is creepier. One was a guy in a bucket hat and a flannel shirt.
And boots.
Like
brown hiking boots.
Yeah. And he was like, the ladders that kids use that are like kind of like curved, so they're not difficult ladders, but whatever, like to get onto the jungle gym. He was doing like the standing push-ups.
Yeah.
So he was like leaning and just, it kind of looked like he was humping the stairs,
We're this podcast is not suitable for children.
No, not this week.
To click that.
No. Hey, this guy was not suitable for children, really. So
it wasn't like, it didn't look inappropriate.
No, it was not
threatening.
But
we were at a playground to apply sunscreen. Like, we were sitting outside of the playground near like the soccer fields to apply sunscreen and to use the restroom. And we were just, I think some of the children were like screaming. So we looked over, and then they weren't screaming because of that guy. But then we noticed the guy. And yeah, Mike said like how you'd have to be like really either just completely unaware or like unfazed by like what that could look like.
Yeah. So, yeah. And no, it didn't seem like any of the parents
Didn't seem like anyone
minded,
cared.
really. I don't know.
No.
So that's one version.
Yeah.
The other version was a younger shirtless man sweating, like glistening in the sun, doing pull-ups.
Yeah.
On the Mikey Bars, I think.
Well, it wasn't. It was like, there's the two bars that are of different heights right next to each other.
Yeah.
But they both had hand rings hanging from them.
Yeah.
As well. But he was just using the bar
Mm-hmm.
to do the not pull-ups, the one where you go up above the bar. You put yourself up above the bar, and then it's like a downward pull-up.
So
I have no idea what these.
Yeah.
I do not do any arm exercises. To be clear, I walk.
Right. Yeah. So not only he was shirtless, and again, kids are playing around.
Yeah.
But also it's like a little more performative than the other one.
Yeah. Well, there also happened to be a lot of people near there because there was I'm assuming it was a food pantry line or some kind of meal line that was wrapping around the playground.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of the kids were from families that were in that line, and then there were some people just waiting sort of on the benches in the playground.
Yeah.
There were also 2 school safety police people in there. I don't know if you noticed.
No.
Yeah, there were 2 women that were, I thought they were parking cops at first, but then when we were leaving, I saw a school safety van pull up, and I actually, I paused to watch because I was like, oh my gosh, is he going to go in there and, talk to the guy?
Oh.
But then he was actually just delivering Popeyes to the 2 women that were also school safety cops.
Yeah.
So I guess it's fine.
Yeah.
I guess it was fine. And again, it wasn't like either of these guys were interacting with the children at all.
No.
It wasn't creepy. They weren't being creepy. It was just I'm even a little I'm like, are we supposed to even be using the bathrooms? So yes, the things we noticed today.
Right. I don't think any of this has had to do with any of the footage I've taken so far. So
definitely not.
No. So we walk through the Glendale Myrtle Avenue area, and we go to on Woodhaven Boulevard briefly, and there we had a funny interaction on a Sunday, but I don't think this was weekend specific necessarily.
I don't know.
So the first day out, we're on this walk, and there's this weird, there's a interesting lattice of ramps that goes up to the pedestrian walkway that parallels Woodhaven Boulevard briefly.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are approaching this structure that, is potentially like a little menacing, There's... It's like 6 or 7 levels of ramps to go up maybe 3 stories or something. And they're long ramps and they're caged in. And particularly at night, I would imagine it is not a place that you would feel comfortable. You'd probably speed through.
Yeah, but during the day, I think it was, I don't know, it's sort of out of the way. It's down a street that was, because it was early in the morning on Sunday, it was empty. No one was there. But the street was a neighborhood street. One side of the street was all residential. There was a Little League field right at the bottom of those stairs. And then the other side of the street was a wall that divided from the highway.
Yeah. And so we're making our way up the winding ramp section. And we are encountered by a woman who was coming down the other direction. And her first reaction to us is to say, Jessie? Well, I'm going to back up a sec. We saw that she was coming, and we
moved out of the way, made sure our masks were on. We're like, really just like, oh, okay, let's get out of the way. Felt like we were being really nice. And then, yeah, as she cruised by us, she goes, "Fucking losers, take the bus." And Mike laughed.
I laughed because I couldn't think, like, I wasn't offended. I was like, she must be making a joke that, like, we're all losers in this situation.
Right. And I thought she was on the phone, but I was also thought it was funny timing. So I was like, "Excuse me?" Thinking that she'd be like, "Oh, I'm on the phone," like, whatever, you know. But then she didn't say anything else. And she got to the bottom of the ramp. We got to the top of the ramp. I looked out over onto the street, and...
This is like 100 yards away from each other,
yeah.
by the way. This is not like we're still close.
No, this is, yeah, like 3 stories in between. And she's on the street at this point. And I look over to see just like what was going on. Is she on the phone? And she looks back up at us, sees that I'm looking, and yells again, "Fucking losers!" So I guess it was directed towards us. I don't
It definitely gave us a pause for, we were talking like, what is it that possibly could have made this woman feel this way?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we speculated that because of the menacing nature of the structure, she was scared maybe.
Yeah, like maybe she thought she was all alone in there and then got startled by us being there and figured instead of startling her, we should have taken the bus.
Yeah. Also, she didn't have her mask on, so maybe she was angry that she would feel compelled to put her mask on.
To put it on, or yeah, I don't know what it was.
But this is like Sunday at 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, this is some real big midweek energy coming at us. I don't really know why.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll ever know why. There was a bus stop right after we got off, like when at the top of the ramp, and we were on the street.
Maybe that's what we were taking.
Half a block. There was a bus stop. I know. Well, that's what I thought. Like, lady, maybe we're on our way. Didn't you just pass the bus stop? But also maybe that's why she was thinking about the bus. I don't know.
Yeah.
I liked it. It was a funny interaction. I feel like we haven't been able to have those funny, weird, angry New Yorker interactions for so long. For real.
Yeah.
Because we've been quarantining and isolating, and when we go out walking, we're not really interacting with that many people.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't say it's my favorite way to interact with people, but I also wouldn't say that I don't like it.
I mean, it was very benign, as anything goes.
Yeah, it was funny. It was bizarre.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was a christening for North Queens for the week. We end up from there walking along Yellowstone Boulevard, which is a road I had never known of before. Maybe some of you out there have heard of it previously, but I didn't know Yellowstone existed in any form in New York City.
I didn't either.
So that was pretty cool. It took us through Forest Hills. When we went, there was a section of Yellowstone Boulevard that was an underpass where we found this cool little project.
Yeah, it was called the Yellowstone Underpass Project.
Yeah. And it was essentially a community-led effort to rehabilitate this derelict underpass that I guess not only was an eyesore but also kind of a danger to the community.
Yeah, so what had been going on in that underpass, I guess for a really long time, there's a precinct right there, the 112th precinct, and they had been storing cars underneath the underpass that had been in major accidents and were linked to criminal investigations. So cars that were just like totally smashed up would be under there for extended periods of time. And the precinct is right next to the underpass, but so is a school. Mm-hmm. And so the residents were really upset that that was something that they had to pass by every day when they're taking their kids to school. And I was reading about this project after we saw it the first day, and a lot of people were just saying, you know, it's just a reminder of violence, and it's it's also an eyesore, but there's just so many layers, I guess, of what made them feel upset that was there. And yeah, they were able to clean it up. They got a really small grant. It was $2,700 from a nonprofit that helped them out. And that was enough to totally clean it up and to put some public art underneath there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks great. That's one of the areas I actually didn't capture for video, so I wish I had something to show more of. But yeah, they had a little mural that was done by an artist. It was like a modular mural.
Yeah, it was 4 geometric murals inspired by Mondrian. And they have stencils of fruit, which I read, it's fruit from a bunch of different countries.
Mm-hmm.
And then also on each of the 4 murals each one has a different word: love, respect, tolerance, and resilience. They're all in English, and then they're also all written in 10 to 12 different languages.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's cool. And they have a bunch of signs that are up as well that are in the style of, normal bridge road signs, but they are references to what the area was like previously when I guess it used to flood a lot as well.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of interesting, done in an artistic way. There was a lot of plantings there. They also had painted on the wall kind of their goals for the year, which was interesting
Yeah,
too.
that was nice. I don't remember offhand what they were.
Yeah, I don't either, but they all were really achievable.
Yeah.
From what I recall. And yeah, I mean, it was a really cool space, and one of those things that like we're hopeful we get to see more of as we do this walk, these kind of smaller community things that would have no reason to actually show up on any searches, but something that we can just find in our own meanderings and possibly reach out to these people, which we did. We haven't heard anything from them to this point, but yeah.
Yeah, I think those sorts of smaller projects are really exciting to see. I was trying to figure this out earlier. There's something about it that I always get so excited when I see something like that. I guess it's partially because, like you just said, Mike, you can't search for it. That's not something I couldn't really Google small cool things in Forest Hills, or there's like, it's that kind of thing that you just kind of have to happen upon. And so that's feels a little magical in a way, but it's also a reminder that change doesn't have to be this massive thing that's totally overwhelming and out of reach. Significant change can happen just in your community, and it can be, like you said, the goals on the wall are totally achievable, and that's great.
Yeah.
And if each person can do achievable goals, then the massive change could happen because of all of that, but it makes it feel a little less daunting and overwhelming and like it's never going to happen when you can start thinking about things on a smaller scale.
Yeah. I looked up on my pictures while you were talking, and it's not goals, it's actually accomplishments.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, what are they?
Accomplishments so far: more light by April 2019, car crashes removed quicker, community cleanups and gardening, a new community mural. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and then it gives an option for how to be a part of it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a nice, fun little thing that we got to experience. And then moving from there, we go into Forest Hills. And Forest Hills kind of brings to my mind something that we saw this week as far as neighborhood compositions. There were 3 new types of neighborhoods that we hadn't seen last week that I think are worth calling out. And the first one was in Forest Hills, which was a different type of affluence than what we referenced last week in Long Island City, which is these very beautiful, well, not always very beautiful, but really there weren't like...
Some of them were.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there were a ton of tacky ones like you might see in other parts of the city. Most of them were pretty well done, large, presumably quite expensive homes.
Yeah. Yeah, like standalone homes.
Yeah.
I don't know how big I don't know, like square footage wise.
Yeah. But they didn't...
They looked like the type of home that could have like 8 bedrooms
right.
in it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they didn't quite have the distance that you might see in other areas from each other.
Like in the suburbs or something.
Yeah, but they definitely felt like individual units. They didn't feel connected in any way.
No, they definitely weren't connected. They were definitely standalone, but you're right. They didn't have like huge property.
Yeah.
It was just that the house was really big and then there'd be a small yard.
Yeah. But there were some other instances of these houses. Forest Hills, I would say, is a little bit different and kind of, I think in a way, fits with how further west it is in relation to some of the other ones we've seen. But like Auburndale and out in Bayside, there's this type of neighborhood that is, I would consider it a blurring of Long Island and New York City, where it feels suburban, but it still retains enough of the city characteristics to make you aware that you're still in the city,
right.
Such as, bus access and the park, the nature of the parks, the signage associated with the parks, the fire pole boxes, just a bunch of
Yeah, the fact that there's sidewalks that run the entire way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just little trappings here and there, which make it feel like the ability for people who want to still live in the city but want a bit of the suburban experience, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, more space, or I don't know if it has to do with the schools, or maybe even wanting to be able to get out to Long Island, or just have more space, have a yard, or
have a car,
have an animal, or whatever it is. Yeah, it definitely feels like you're on your way out there. You're on your way out to the island.
Yeah. So then the second type of neighborhood, I would say, is one that we immediately hit after the Forest Hills section that we went through, which is in like Paumanok and around Kew Gardens. And there was a couple of other instances of this. And these are, I think, neighborhoods that I wasn't really as aware existed in Queens or in the city in general, but I feel much more confident to associate with other cities, and that's kind of the condo complex situation.
Yeah.
There was all these buildings that, they look very similar, they're very nicely maintained, and they have a fair amount of property, but they're all collectively owned property. There's no like individual yards or anything. You kind of have your own individual entrance to your own space.
Right.
But they're all like courtyards set up so that, they made for very nice spaces.
Yeah, they seemed really nice. But I think like an example of what you are saying about that is one day we walked by and there were 2 people sunbathing, and from the sidewalk you can see both of them and they can see each other, but they were on opposite sides of the courtyard. There's no like shrubbery to distinguish property lines or anything like that, but it's a very nice space. There's benches in the middle, and yeah, like you said, it all seems very nicely maintained. Feels something like a retirement community.
There were a lot of elderly people that we saw around. I don't know if it's exclusively retirement.
Yeah, because I could also see it being like, I could see young families being there, or anything like that too. It reminded me of when I've been in the suburbs and been to retirement communities, it has a similar vibe. Although again, it's very much still in the city where you're not, I usually think of those as being like in a cul-de-sac where you're turning off the main road and you're going into a condo area, but this was more,
Just right out
we just
there.
happened upon it,
Yeah.
and then we passed through it.
Yeah. It was a type of development that I associate more with like a sprawly city, but I guess in some ways Queens is kind of the borough with the biggest opportunity to have sprawl. So yeah, so that was the second type. And then the third type might even be hard to really consider it a type necessarily, but it was interesting enough to worth mention. There are service roads that accommodate the various different major roads that go through Queens, and we walked on a couple of them. We walked on the service road for the Clearview Expressway, and we walked on it for one more, the Cross Island Parkway. And I was really surprised with the quality of the homes there. Like, they were very nice homes. And, like, lots of yard space and nice quality houses. And, you know, my thought when I think about a service road for a bigger road is that it's not going to be, you know, a quality area.
Yeah. You often think it's still going to be really loud. It's going to be out in the sun. It's going to be like kind of dirty from being near the highway. When actually on the first day, we were looking at the map as we were coming upon the first service road, right? And we were saying, well, maybe we'll turn and go down the road parallel to that.
Right.
But then we were getting closer and closer, and we were like, is that it? It looks nice.
Yeah.
And it was. Somehow there were, so the two I can think of, one had like a retaining wall, so it blocked the noises from the highway.
Yeah.
And then the other had a strip of trees, like 5 trees deep or so.
Right.
And that blocked the noise and also provided a lot of shade. And yeah, it was pretty peaceful on those service roads.
So it was while we were on one of these service roads that we saw the church service that we referenced earlier in the podcast.
Yeah.
We just happened to see while we were on the road this church with many statues.
Yeah.
Outside.
Big statues, colorful statues.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about a block over. But we
Yeah.
just happened to look over and see it. It was hard to miss if we were looking to the left where it was.
Yeah.
And yeah, we went to check it out.
Yeah, so we were out in front of it just kind of looking, and then we were reading the plaque that was in front of it, and then a woman in a veil and a long dress came up to us and asked us what we were doing. And
she was very nice.
She was very nice, yeah. And
it wasn't like, what are you doing here? Get out kind of thing. It was more just like, hi.
Yeah. And she, we described what we were doing, and she told us that it was a traditional Catholic sanctuary. So they were doing the Catholic Mass in Latin while we were there.
Is that what it was? Did you look it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we couldn't go in.
Yeah.
Well, we couldn't go in. She's like, she was very, nice, but she said, you can't have shorts on. You have to wear pants.
Yeah, or a skirt.
Yeah.
I would have had to wear a skirt.
Yeah, and Jessie would have had to wear a head covering of some kind.
She said I'd have to wear a veil.
Yeah.
And I must have looked like, and I was like, oh, okay. But I must have looked like either, I was wearing a baseball cap. She either just figured I didn't have a veil, or maybe my face was trying to figure out, like, what could I use? And then she said, but we have some you could borrow if you want to come back. So yeah, they were really welcoming, which was nice. Do you remember what it was called?
Yeah, it was Our Lady of La Salette Church. Yeah. Okay. So we had actually...
We meant to go back. We wanted to go back today, actually.
Yeah, it just didn't work out. We took a slightly different route. So.
Yeah, maybe on a future route.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful outside. And it would be nice to see what it looks like inside.
Yeah. So from there, we go through Bayside. And one day when Jessie was at the studio, I ended up stopping at the Bayside Diner.
You did.
I did, yeah. So the Bayside Diner is an interesting setup. It looks like a temple, really. I don't know if I've seen many, if any, diners that are constructed in that manner. It definitely, I think I've heard of it before. Like it has a bit of a name for itself, but it may just be because it has Bayside in its name that it makes me, think that I've heard of it. I'm not sure. But it's the first time that I've been to a restaurant for the whole restaurant experience since we've had the pandemic. And it was nice. It wasn't entirely normal.
Yeah, no.
There were pre-wrapped everything. Ketchup came in individual packets, salt, pepper, things came out on like individual plates sometimes, So that was interesting. But I also appreciated the fact that they were, going the extra step to make that a thing.
Of course, yeah.
A giant tent had been set up in the parking lot. And so we were all sitting out on the parking lot and, distance from each other appropriately. And I spent some time, I had a cheeseburger, because that's what I wanted. And it allowed me to have that diner experience that I haven't had for a while.
And you love that diner experience.
I do, yeah. Well, it made me, just kind of reflect on what it is that a diner means, kind of in a similar way to the bagel stuff from last week. And I came up with this kind of working thesis, which is the idea that a diner doesn't need to be good to be good.
Explain that.
Unpack that. So the idea for me is that maybe more so than even a good restaurant, the diner is very much about the ambiance and the experience and the expectation of what you're going to get out of a diner.
Right.
And there are chain diners, of course, like a Denny's being very famous.
Right, or like a Perkins. Or...
Yeah, or like...
Did you have Perkins?
No.
Oh.
No.
Maybe that's not as much of a chain as I thought it was.
I think it is. No, I think it's a chain.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, a chain, yeah. But
an IHOP.
An IHOP. But, I mean, the fact that they're...
Because we don't have to name all the chains.
No, we don't. The diners here are strong enough independently that the chains aren't the dominant thought when you, like...
Yeah.
So, but the expectation of a diner in this area, I mean, I could say a tri-state at the minimum, but like, New York City is such for me that the food can be average, but it can still be a good experience.
Right.
Insofar as the food's going to be pretty much what I expect it to be. The table is going to be what I expect it to be. I'm going to be able to stay there as long as I want. The service is going to be just a certain expectation.
Yeah, I mean, some of these things maybe are canceled now with COVID stuff, but we're talking like in normal times, what are you expecting from a diner? Yes?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then I think there are metrics that like you can start thinking about what makes a good diner or not based on like, what are they giving you, if anything, prior to your meal?
Right.
And like, I don't need necessarily anything prior to the meal, but it's not unusual to get breadsticks or bread or, some type of pickled things.
Yeah. I love the pickled things. That's not something that I ever experienced growing up in Pennsylvania.
No.
The pickled stuff. That's purely been New York. Maybe sometimes in New Jersey.
Yeah.
You'll get pickled stuff, but love it.
Yeah. And so those are the things that'll push it, like, even if the food is good or that is good, it could make a great diner experience potentially.
Yeah.
But then there are other things that you would think that actually are a greater drag on a dining experience or a diner experience than otherwise. Like, I feel like price is actually an outsized grade against a diner potentially.
Right.
Like if a burger is a couple of bucks more than you would expect, that is actually making for a worse diner experience than if the burger is slightly better than average.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. Well, you also, I feel like there's this idea of how much something should cost when you go into a diner. So if you see that it's a little bit more, then you're automatically like, all right, this better be the best burger I've ever had.
Right. Yeah.
Which, like, it won't be.
No.
It's still going to be a diner burger. It's not going to be like Dumont or some other steakhouse burger or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping for a very specific burger experience when I went yesterday.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it. I just wanted it a little bit rarer than it was. But I mean, it was still good. I'm happy I went.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was hoping for that threshold of good burger. And it was somewhere between average and good burger.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But it was,
Not bad.
Yeah. It was, I mean, I would still think, given the circumstances, it definitely felt like, not like roughing it, but something similar, where it's like, you know, this is the struggle that we have to deal with in this day and age of the pandemic right now as far as dining experiences go.
Yeah.
You know, but, which of course I'm being facetious. It
Yes.
was not a struggle at all. But
No, you were able to be served food.
yeah.
Which is very nice.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that is such a strong New York City experience, and I don't foresee it being something that would go away, you know, but it is definitely something that I miss, and, you know,
Yeah.
I would like for it to return sooner rather than later.
I think it will. The diners have always amazed me how that, like, when you talk about price, they usually are so cheap,
Yeah.
but they just stick around.
Yeah.
While restaurants that are expensive fold. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
They must have like 100-year leases or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Well, there was a diner near where I worked in Soho called the Landmark Diner, and that was truly an average diner. The food there was average.
Yeah.
But because it was in an area where everything else had given way to flagship stores,
Yeah.
it was a good diner.
It felt good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, like, I mean, that's when you get an opportunity to become a diner regular, which
Right.
is, I mean, there aren't many better retail experiences
Oh gosh.
than being a regular when they like know what you
They
want.
know what you want.
They call you honey.
Oh, it's
you know,
so
they're
nice.
they're
It's
very
so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, when I left my
They
job,
like sit down in your booth with you sometimes.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
nice.
when I left my job, I told them, and they were, you know, somewhat saddened, but not
Aw.
like, you know, I don't know if even that, I don't know if I want to be that regular where like I'm breaking somebody's heart that I'm leaving. But it was like, there was a level of concern given to the fact that I was leaving. And that's all I really wanted. you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
There's I feel like the diners in New York, they're not all the same. Also, we have like the Greek diner is a common one.
Mm-hmm.
The Jewish diner is another one.
Mm.
Then there's sort of like the the classic American.
Well, what do you think of when you think of the Jewish diner?
I think it's like the deli meets diner.
Oh, well, so like, are you like the appetizings?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm thinking like not Katz's or something like that, but like
Yeah.
there's a famous one uptown
Mm.
that I can't think of the name of right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is, you're right. I mean, there's like the whitefish sandwich and like matzo ball soup and like that type of,
Yeah.
yeah. And then, I mean, the American diner, I feel like is fairly similar to the Greek diner. It just maybe doesn't have like
But the
gyros
Greek
and Slovakia and things
exactly
like that.
the Greek diner would have like the moussaka, the pasticcio, the
Yeah.
spanakopita, and like, but But that's an interesting thing, too. I feel like because diners were a big deal in Allentown.
Yeah.
But we only had sort of just like the retro diner.
Yeah.
Where there'd be a jukebox.
Right.
And it would be silver.
It's like a caricature.
But like not, they had been there for a long time.
Right.
But it was, like I took you to the Ham Fam.
Yeah.
Right? And but what was your diner experience in Long Island?
The diner experience in Long Island is, there aren't many diners that are like Elvis diners.
Okay.
They're mostly Greek diners.
Oh, okay.
I don't think there's really, I don't recall going to a lot more of the Jewish diners that you're talking about.
Yeah, and maybe I'm classifying that wrong.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I do think it like straddles the line between just like a deli and diner.
Yeah. Either way, that's sort of like, that is one thing that I also really like about New York. And maybe we're going too much of a tangent because we are way off the route now.
Yeah, right.
But one of my favorite places in New York when I first moved here was the Stage Deli,
Sure.
which is in the East Village. And that isn't a diner, but isn't a deli, but it's something in between, and it's like a counter service situation.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like that there's all sorts of these like cheap eateries where you know what you're going to get. And like you said, it's sort of like, it's never going to be like amazing, but it's also not going to be bad. It's always just going to be like kind of like comfort food, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get an opportunity to frequent more of them in the future, either in parking lots or maybe one day going back inside again. I guess we'll see.
Wow, we'll see.
Yeah. So from there, we went over to Bayside, the kind of town area, which was most notable for the fact that we were passing on a side street and we passed a house with a big bush of lavender, and I smelled it, and then I plucked some for Jessie to smell, and she was actually able to smell it.
Yeah, it was so exciting.
Yeah.
And I guess for a lot of people listening, they're like, what? I lost my sense of smell when I was 16 when I got my wisdom teeth out. They hit a nerve or something. And really over the last 10 years or so, every once in a while I'll smell something. And yeah, like a couple times a year, maybe I'll smell something.
Yeah.
And every time it's really exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about certain smells that just kind of push through.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the lavender did it.
Yeah. So that was great to see and great to smell. And we went from there to Crocheron Park, which is on Little Neck Bay.
Yeah.
I think that might be the closest we're going to get to Long Island. We're talking like less than 2 miles before we're in Nassau County.
Yeah,
at that
we were
point.
really close. That actually, so to be, to full confession here, Bayside, I didn't realize we were going to get to see the water. Like, it's by the side of the bay. That's why it's named that, right? But when we got to that park and you said, I want to go to the water, I was like, oh, there's probably a pond or something. And then it was the bay. There were boats out there. It was like, yeah, it felt like we were in Long Island.
Yeah.
So that was nice.
Yeah.
That was nice. It was a nice surprise. It was good for me to recognize that, yes, Bayside is by the bay.
And that was a very nice park. We enjoyed it. We really only fully explored it on Sunday.
Yeah.
But we'll be back there again as we go through subsequent walks. So.
Sure.
Yeah. And then from there, we went to Utopia Parkway and Utopia Bagels, which,
Yum!
as you know from the last episode, I could go on for quite a bit about that, but we'll go very quickly. Jessie was able to have gluten-free bagels, so that's really what made it special.
Yeah, I could do a rant about bagels too if I wanted to, but I'll let you have that, Mike.
No.
No, I actually just don't have that much to say about it, except that I love bagels, and I haven't been able to eat them for years because I have celiac disease, and I found that out 5 years ago or so. And It's always so exciting when someone has gluten-free bagels that I can eat.
Yeah.
And yeah, they did. Not only did they have gluten-free bagels, but they had 3 different flavors.
Yeah.
They had plain, everything, and cinnamon.
Yeah. They also had gluten-free donuts.
Yeah, they did.
So basically, whenever Jessie was on the walk with me this week, we got a bagel.
It's true.
Because it's Jessie's birthday week, so
Yeah,
she
birthday
gets
bagel
whatever.
week.
Yeah, she gets whatever she wants. And I had a bialy there and a bagel there. They were very good bagels. I think befitting the fact that it's so close to Long Island, the vibe of the bagel place was very much a Long Island bagel place.
Yeah.
So there was like Sublime playing on the radio, and it was a much more open floor plan, and there were tons of people running around taking other people's orders. And yeah, it was very, very good bagel. And it also like had a lot of the spreads and like the full belly locks that I would associate more with city bagel places than Long Island bagel places. That's not necessarily something that they have the full spread. So high marks all around.
Yeah.
And
the everything bagel had salt on it, right?
It did.
There you go.
It had an acceptable level of salt. So yeah, so we were pretty pleased about that. And from there, that's kind of like the halfway point of the walk, but we're going to accelerate faster in the description of things, I think. We started going back west after that. And so we go on the Cross Island Service Road, as we described earlier, and we go to College Point, which is the home of one of our favorite establishments.
Spa Castle.
That's right, Spa Castle, which currently is open,
Yee.
but not open in our hearts.
Not open to us.
No.
I mean, they're open to us. We are not open to going into the Spa Castle at the moment.
Yeah, for those not...
I don't know how you would do that right now. I just don't know how that works. Are you wearing your mask in the hot tub? If you're not, what's moving around? And I don't, like, it's already, like, what you go into Spa Castle and you're like, what's moving around in here? Like, already. But you deal with it because there's not a deadly virus spreading around. But now, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
there's like a naked area. What am I going to go in there with my mask on and nothing else?
Yeah.
I can't do that right now.
I agree. We are both fervent defenders of the castle.
Yeah,
but
normally.
There are some lines that we cannot hold. But there seem to be other people going, so good. They can keep Spa Castle going for now.
Sure.
And then one time there will be a day when we will feel happy to return to Sauna Valley.
Yeah.
But something that we discovered there this week was that there's a park right behind Spa Castle called Powell's Cove Park. And we've never noticed it because we have our minds on one thing when we go to Spa Castle, and that's lounging to the max.
It's the sauna.
Yeah.
Sauna and the schwitzing, and that's really all we want to do in there.
Sauna and the schwitzing. Yeah, so we went into Powell's Cove Park, and it affords a lovely view of the Whitestone Bridge.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, there's like it goes from, it's all trees and meadows and secluded, and then there's just a couple spots where it peeks out into some marsh area, and you can catch a brilliant view of the Whitestone Bridge.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny. A beautiful view of the Whitestone Bridge is funny to me because my experience on the Whitestone Bridge is usually just like sitting in traffic, and it's not usually, it's like it's what you drive over to enter back into New York City when you've been away and or go out, and but yeah, it was really quite nice. Strange. Near the edge of the water, there was a lot of trash that we figure must have washed up.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the park was super clean.
Yeah.
But yeah, we walked right up to the water there, and totally like littered with little pieces of plastic and like the inside of Bic pens and a little
disappointing, but I don't think through anybody in particular's fault. It didn't really look like people were littering at the park. It looked like something
it didn't
had
seem
been
that
washed
at all. Yeah, and the park was big enough that just happened. That was like one little path that went to the water that we took, but the rest of the park was really quite lovely.
Yeah.
Nice to walk through.
Yeah. So we went there, and then we start going south, and there's this one little park that wouldn't be worth mentioning called College Point Fields, which is a bunch of ball fields. Were it not for the fact that I saw something interesting there one day.
Yeah, what was it?
I was applying sunblock, as is my hobby, and I was leaving the park, and there was an older gentleman there at the entrance with 3 crates. 2 of them were empty, and one of them, of about 4 feet by 2 feet size, with a lot of wooden grates on them, contained something like 20 pigeons or thereabouts. And it was clear from that they were, either racing or homing. They were trained pigeons.
Cool.
And I was interested in talking to the man, but he was talking about the pigeons on the phone to somebody else.
Gotcha.
So, I just kept walking on my way, and very shortly thereafter, the flock of remaining pigeons in that one crate flew over my head. Again, 20 or 30 of them, all flying in a ball.
Whoa.
And all flapping at it's seemingly like the same rate.
Wow.
And they kind of shot off a couple of avenues down straight away. And then they started doubling back in small circles. Kind of like how I would describe one of those tops that have a pen on the top.
A doodle top.
A doodle top, sure. And you let it go on a piece of paper, perhaps with some cavalier attitude, rather than trying to keep it in one space. And it shoots across half of the page, and then does one little turn, and then goes a little bit further and does another little turn, and then progressively makes smaller and smaller circles while still going in a line. And so at first I thought, I don't know. I mean, I've heard stories of pigeons going for miles, so I don't know. I thought they must be gone. I'm not going to see them. But as I kept walking, they ended up going along the route that I was going.
That's amazing.
And I was able to...
Did you think they were tracking you?
No, I did not have that type of thought. I started to notice that, again, they were circling smaller and smaller, and I guess they were, locating what they thought was their home.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I did see them land. I didn't actually, I guess I can't say I didn't see them land in particular. All of a sudden, they were gone, and then 15 or 20 steps later, the buildings opened up, and I was able to see a man in a roost securing it.
Yeah.
So it must have been the liaison of the older man. Unless the man drove past me, but I don't think so. I think he I think he was talking to the guy, and the guy locked them up. But it was fascinating to see. I would really love to talk to somebody that deals with pigeons in some respect in the city, because it's kind of like the ham radio of New York City. It is a thing that, Mike Tyson had pigeons.
Really?
This is a thing that...
I did not know that.
It's been going on for, I mean, I don't know, it might even be over a century. I don't know. Pigeons have a storied history that, eclipses their rat, tendencies right now.
Yeah.
We actually passed by a closed pet store today that promoted pigeon feed.
It's true, and then there was something that looked like a roost on top of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have been nervous if I was with you. I'm scared of pigeons.
Yeah.
Because I think all the pigeons need to be trained. we gotta get the pigeons back in the roost.
I thought it was cool. And hopefully...
I mean, I also think it's cool. I just have a fear of pigeons. And if they were all you said they all flew over my head. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah. This is a bit of an aside, but I think it fits because we're seeing all these random one-off things.
Yeah.
Which are great. I mean, I love it, and I can't wait to see more of them each week. There was something that I noticed today, which is unique to doing the same thing 5 times in a row, which is that you see changes that are really subtle. but they're dramatic to you because they're interruptions in a pattern. So, week 1 I saw the porta potties were blown over.
Right.
Or
yeah.
not week 1, week 2.
That was week 2.
This
yeah,
week
that was crazy.
I was gonna use the restroom, and a urinal went from like in service to like covered in a garbage bag and like caution tape.
Oh God, what happened there?
I don't know. But it like
Yikes.
it wouldn't have been something that like I would have thought twice about had I not used it the day before.
the day before,
yeah.
right.
And there was one of the fire pole boxes had been knocked over, like there must have been a car accident or something.
Yeah.
One of the nights that we went by. And just thinking about how there's these little incidences that don't seem like a big deal maybe if you're just living your life every day, but
Right.
they kind of take on more value when you're living that life like in your neighborhood, I guess,
Right.
or you're just like experiencing a pattern for a few days in a row and you see that interrupted.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too that it's 5 days, but then not beyond, because like, for example, with those porta potties that got knocked over, well, like to us, they're still knocked over.
Yeah.
But in reality, they're probably not. They've
Right.
probably been picked up by now.
Right.
But we saw them standing, and then we saw them knocked over, and then we didn't see them standing again.
Right.
And we were there a couple more times.
Right.
So,
Right.
so yeah, that's an interesting thing where if you were living there and you were going by all the time, you would never remember like, oh yes, 2 months ago and 3 days ago, the porta potties were knocked down and they were picked up precisely 48 hours later. Like,
Right.
You might notice like, oh no, the porta potties fell down, but then they'd be back up and they'd like normal.
Yeah. So, I'm definitely going to be looking out for more of those instances.
Yeah, I like that.
From there, we go into Flushing. Today we visited our friend/accountant, Frank.
Yeah, it was nice to see Frank.
Yeah, Frank is
Hey
doing
Frank,
well.
if you're listening.
Hey, Frank. How are you? Frank?
We know how he is because we just saw him
We
today.
did. Yeah, that's right. I don't need to ask. You can't answer anyway.
It's the day after tax season.
Yeah.
The new tax date of July 15th,
Yeah.
2020 tax season. So
He
it
gets
was a little bit of a break,
That's right.
but only a little bit.
Yeah, because then there's the extension date for October, so he'll start ramping up again soon.
Yeah.
So, good luck, Frank. But it was good to see him, and hopefully, if we can, on the future episode where we go through Flushing, maybe you guys get a chance to hear him too.
Yeah.
We passed through Flushing. There's a lot of industry in that area, which was cool to document. And from there, we went past Citi Field, actually, the first of our major sports arenas to pass by. And
no, you stand corrected.
why?
We
What
passed
did
by the
pass?
Barclays Center.
Oh,
first
you're
week.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
But that's an indoor arena. This is the first of the outdoor arenas.
That you're being generous. I
I
forgot
know.
about the Barclays. But yeah, so that was cool to see. It looked like there was some activity buzzing around there now that baseball is going to get started soon.
Yeah, looks like it.
Yeah. And so from there, we went over, actually back through Corona again this week, just kind of sliced through.
Yeah.
So seeing a lot of the things that we saw last week.
Yeah, because it edges up against the route that we did last week.
Yep.
So there's a little bit of an overlap.
Yeah, but then we quickly go out of the overlap again, and we're in Elmhurst for a little bit, which was really a mixture of several different neighborhood types we've seen. I feel like there were some kind of standalone houses. There were more row houses as well. There were also some taller buildings with commercial spaces mixed in around it. There was Elmhurst Park, which had a lot of dance exercising going on the weekdays.
Yeah, that was a cool park. I like
that was a very nice park. It had a Vietnam memorial as well, and it was it's a lot of tree shade.
Yeah, and it used to be Oh, I took a picture of it, but what was it? It was was it like a nuclear
It was
plant?
Newtown. No, it was Newtown, like gas containers.
That's
or
what
something.
it was. It was gas containers.
Yeah.
Were stored there.
Yeah.
And then they turned it into a park.
Yeah. So great use of land overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a nice small park.
Yeah.
And from there, we start kind of getting into the landing phase. so to
one more
speak.
note about Elmhurst.
Yeah.
Good bathrooms.
That park, yes, had very
Automatic.
good bathrooms. And
Sinks. Clean.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it was like, it felt fresh and clean.
Yeah. It was a
and
modern.
Modern.
It felt
exactly.
It felt like a new church, but a bathroom.
Yeah, for sure. Totally.
Yeah. It also had the best water fountain that we experienced this week, which it was a pretty low bar, but it was. It allowed you to fill up your whole water bottle, and yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't look like there had been a lot of water balloon fill-ups there.
Yeah.
Which is a big thing around parks. So yeah, that was cool. And yeah, as I was saying, we kind of go into landing mode from here. We went through Maspeth, and we went through a section of Maspeth that was not the industrial section that we went through last time. It was more like the commercial zone.
Right.
And so that was cool to see. And from there, we generally turn on to Fresh Pond, which is where we went last week, and kind of make the final 3-mile march home, basically.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our route. And yeah, hopefully you've seen some of the footage of it.
Yeah, I think some of it'll link up, right?
For sure. I'll probably make my life a little bit harder trying to make it match up more than it should.
Oh, no.
But
they'll like it.
Yeah, I hope so. And yeah, as far as other things, there was something that I haven't talked to you about that I thought was really interesting that I experienced this week.
Oh, what was it?
With respect to the what hurts department or the physical, thing.
Yeah, what is it?
It wasn't a hurt. It was actually the opposite. I'm not sure how to explain it. I wonder if somebody that is an athlete has experienced this previously. There's something going on with my feet. So the past 2 weeks, I've had a bunch of heel blisters, and those are finally going away, which is great. My skin's kind of cracked and whatnot, but the pain is very minimal. And I think there's something about having your feet inside a shoe for so long or something, and having it kind of compressed.
Okay.
But recently, when I get home, my feet have been experiencing this thing that's something somewhere between tickling and pleasure.
Weird.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like blood's returning or something, but that emotionally maybe is what it feels like.
Huh.
And also any tactile experience on my feet, we have a yoga mat in the living room floor right now, and I do stretches for 15 minutes every morning. And then there's a ribbed carpet, a corded.
It's jute. It's like a jute.
A jute
Yeah.
carpet. And so that's very textured. And if my feet are on that, and especially if my feet slip a little bit on that, it has this pleasurable / tickle sensation.
Weird.
And I think the weirdest part about it is I can just think about that sensation now and feel it in my feet.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't really know what it is that's happening. But
yeah, someone please know and tell us.
But it's not bad. And we also have this spiked ball.
Yeah.
And that feels pretty good too.
Yeah.
As far
I
as
like that ball too.
Yeah. But it's it's this weird massage sensation without a massage.
Huh.
Yeah.
I mean that's great. That sounds great.
I mean, it's better than pain.
For sure.
Yeah. It's great. And the doctor's actually, It's not great at all.
Oh, I don't want to hear that.
I know, I was going to go further, but I know you'd start being upset.
Yeah. We haven't quite finished the episode yet. Bye.
Yeah. But that, I think that's all from, like, the pain check-in thing.
Yeah.
I've been having some, like, internal fighting with the sneakers I have, where there's...
It's been external.
where I have a pair that for some reason I just don't favor. I feel like it's not as good as the one pair. But I want to wear them evenly so that I get the most value. But then, like, what is value when you're walking so much?
Yeah.
So...
I get it.
I don't know. It's going to continue to be a problem, I think, in my head. But honestly, problems are just what your mind does. Like, it's going to be something. And if it's going to be that is totally an acceptable level.
Yeah, if it's, like, actually hurting you, then get new shoes.
Yeah.
But if it's just in your head, then...
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard to know. It's really hard to know. Because it's also, like, the sock and shoe combination or how you're walking, or, like, it could even just be, like, the weather. If it's, like, extra hot and you're sweating a lot, and maybe that's why you got blisters, you know?
Yeah. But I actually bought a couple of new pairs of shoes on the 4th of July on sale. And I'll be wearing, I think I've decided I'm just going to bring one pair with me and feel, like, very confident that it's been worked in, rather than trying to bring two pairs and, like, doing both at once, you know?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, but yeah,
It's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm like to get those worked in before the fall starts, so I'll have an ample amount of time to do that.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a thing, you know, moving forward, to, like, continue to, on weekends, wear new shoes in order to have them prepared.
I have to get new shoes too, and I've actually been having a similar struggle in a way, where I have a pair of Hokas that I got for our Washington trip.
Mm-hmm.
And I got them because previously I'd worn Nikes that worked really well, but I went to the Nike store and the Nike salesperson told me to go to the Jackrabbit and buy Hokas. So I did, and then I got a lot of blisters on the Washington trip, and I had never gotten blisters before.
Yeah.
So I had kind of, like, sworn off the Hokas. I had bought new Nikes, but now the Nikes have started giving me blisters and the Hokas aren't. So I'm so confused. But I don't know if it's, like, maybe now that the Hokas are more worn in than the Nikes because those are a little newer.
Yeah.
Or what the deal is. But I'm going to have to get new shoes, and I don't know what brand to go with now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm torn.
Well,
I don't know. I also don't know if the Hokas give me blisters in Washington, maybe because of the terrain.
Yeah.
Or my socks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll never know.
Right.
So.
No, we never can know.
We never can know. It's also a different style Nike than what I had before, and I don't even know what I had before because I threw them away because they were busted.
Right.
Because I'd walked hundreds of miles in them previously.
Well, if anybody in the audience has opinions on what shoes we should get, please communicate them to us, either through comments or in person or through Gmail. I don't know.
Yeah, I think especially shoes for me. You like your New Balance.
I'm just going to try and get the same version as much as possible.
Yeah.
And that's just that.
Yeah, but I'll take suggestions. I'll try up to one more brand.
Yeah. I guess one last thing. We got some electrolyte drink. We
did, yeah, that's true. And it's good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
What's it called, Vitalite?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I Googled what's a healthy alternative to Gatorade powder.
Yeah.
I think is what I Googled.
Yeah.
And then I read 2 articles.
Yeah.
And then it's like low sugar. It has more sodium in it to replace when you're sweating, so I thought it'd be good for the summer.
Yeah.
And seems fine.
Yeah, I mean it tastes like you're drinking energy. So that's good.
Yeah. And it doesn't actually have that, like, I think it's fruit punch flavor. I know it's fruit punch flavor. I just turned my head and read it. But I don't feel like it has that much flavor. Do you?
No, I don't.
It's
And
pink.
that's it. But it's one of those things. Much like Gatorade tastes better when you're exercising.
Yeah.
It tastes better when you need it. So.
Yeah.
And in that respect, that's good. I mean, it could always get like something with more sugar, like as a treat if you need it. But
Yeah, but I specifically wanted something with less sugar.
yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's the. So now I'm bringing 2 of these bottles with me each time. We bought
Yeah.
these like smaller platypuses that are 16 ounces each.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of like down them like, I don't know.
In two turns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good. We just continue to iterate on what our fuel situation looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, and we will continue.
But I think that's it for this week. Thank you, as always, for listening, those that have gotten to the end of the episode. This should be coming out on the regular scheduled Tuesday,
Yeah.
and we'll be starting walking up again on that day, and we'll be doing East Queens.
That's right.
The Queens March continues.
For 2 more weeks.
Yeah. So until then, have a great week.
Yeah, have a great post-birthday week to everyone.
Yeah.
Post my birthday, that is.
Post Jessie's birthday. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, please do so. Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Bye.